Hello, everyone. Welcome back from Epic headquarters here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm Ray Davis, General Manager, and I've got with me Josh Adams and Ryan Brooks.
Hello. Hey.
Josh is our lead platform engineer. Is that your official title? What do we have on the cards there? Yeah.
Platform team lead.
There we go. Platform team lead. And then Ryan Brooks, one of our level designers. Both been at Epic for quite some time. Today, two things you want to touch on. First and foremost, a big part of this will be about the WWDC recap and our work with Metal on the Zen Garden demo, and that's where we got Josh and Ryan, both big contributors to making that happen. And also, just wanted to, in case you guys missed it, we released 4.2 out yesterday. We've covered a lot of what the release notes are out there. I think the big takeaway for us is it was like over 500 updates in the last 6 weeks since we shipped 4.1. Big push on vehicles and blueprints and ongoing mobile improvements, all that good stuff. Also, just to call it once more, we have Tappy Chicken is out there. It's live. It's that great, the spectrum of what you can do with UE4, right? Not only the high end, but it's in the App Store on iOS. It's there for Android and HTML5 as well. It's just unrealengine.com/HTML5 gets you Tappy Chicken.
How big is that build again, Ray? Something ridiculously small, right?
Well, HTML5 version I think is down 10 megs, right?
Wow.
And then for iOS, the download is what? Less than 30?
Yeah, like 20 or 25.
Yeah, and that's an area that over the coming months we'll continue to improve and grow on those mobile workflows and all those kind of important bits like getting the size down and removing any leftover weight that's not needed for that style of game. And also the services for shipping a successful mobile game these days. The leaderboards, the matchmaking, the social, being able to plug into whether it's Game Center or Google Ads. You worked a lot on that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess before we get into the next thing, I would just talk a little bit more, Josh. How long have you actually been here?
I've been here for about 9.5 years now.
Okay.
Started out, first thing I did pretty much was PS3 when that was super early. Mm-hmm. And then every console since then. So,
yes.
Every platform.
And we were talking before the stream. Josh is the reason we have colored hair at Epic, we believe. He was the trendsetter.
For guys, at least.
Different color every stream and every month.
Yeah. Now it's a competition. Apparently this isn't pink, but...
Yeah, now there's we got one person for pink, one for purple, one for red. I think
green. Nolan's green, right?
Yeah, we just have the slots for one hair color per person.
And Ryan, you're
I'm
next.
just a boring old brown, I'm next.
And Ryan, you joined about the same time I did, way back in the day, right?
About 11 years ago now, that's right, yeah. Started out doing level design on Unreal Championship 2, back with you in the day.
One of my favorite games we worked on that not enough people played.
Yeah, we made a game that was perfect for us, didn't we? It was a lot of fun working on that.
Yeah, that was a fun one because our play tests were awesome and we got super, super good. We got too good at the game that by the time we shipped it, nobody else could figure out.
It was pretty hardcore, yeah.
But the ninja wall jumps and all kinds of cool special moves.
A lot of awesome mobility in that game and cool melee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's still fun to play once in a while. I still play it with friends.
Yeah, all the way back to Xbox One.
Cool. First Xbox One.
Sorry, that was terrible. Damn you, Microsoft. Yes.
Xbox One.
Not the Xbox 720? No. Cool. And I guess, Ryan, what are you working on now?
Right now I'm working on Fortnite, doing a bit of the background art as well as some technical art, and I also do just a bit of technical art on the engine here and there. I worked on the math hall level from 4.1, a couple of the material function stuff in 4.2, like the spline thicken improvements, and also random little art tools here and there, but I'm kind of a hybrid between technical art and environment art, so just do what needs to be done, jumping around on different projects here and there. I
vaguely remember you hacking around in UE3 with the material editor. Didn't you grab some paper offline and actually recreated this crazy shader? Do you remember what that was? Maybe
the interior mapping or something like that. Yeah, me and Jordan and John were the three tech arty guys here. We're always kind of backwards engineering a lot of shaders and stuff like that and seeing what's possible in the engine. And it's usually pretty much anything's possible, so we have to kind of be careful not to spend too much time in some crazy feature land. Yeah,
exactly. You guys go create something ridiculously awesome, and then we all agree, okay, we got to figure out how to do this for real.
Yeah, how do we ship this now and make it run?
Yeah, and that's where Josh comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, in fact, about when Josh first started 7 or 8 years ago, you said he was working on the PS3 launch demo, and that was something that I worked on with him as well, and those were some crazy days back in then. I think we had something like a 3-day crunch at the end of it. Nothing that crazy happens nowadays, so thankfully, because many of us have families and we couldn't survive that if we tried.
We're staying there pretty late, many nights in a row, that's for sure.
Yeah, mastering the art of the SPU and the PPUs. I remember when you got your first Hello World, it was literally printf was the first thing you got up on that, right?
Was that learning Unreal or something?
Well,
Or you already knew Unreal before you came here? 'Cause-
I was new to Unreal 3. UE3
This
was
is the
new,
dude that
and
took UE2 to Dreamcast.
That's right.
UE1 is
Sorry,
UE1 to
UE1.
Dreamcast,
Okay,
UE2 on
to PlayStation.
PS2
Yeah.
and GameCube.
Oh yeah, GameCube.
Yeah,
Cool.
that was good. I like the GameCube
Yeah.
development. It took me about a month to do what on the GameCube. What it took me about a year to do on the PS2. PS2 was complex.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So I guess we'll jump into more news. Dana, let's see, we've got swag prizes, giveaways. Do you want to talk a little more about this?
Yeah, sure. So on the May 22nd stream, the Tappy Chicken one, where we read questions out loud, I still have to contact lots of folks there. I'm really sorry. A lot of our time has been going to the surprise at WWDC and shipping 4.2. So if we haven't gotten in touch with you yet, don't worry. We will have the list. We've not forgotten about you.
All right. And then we'll be doing the same today, right, of people who questions are selected?
Yeah. Well, at least 5 people today will be selected for swag packs.
Okay.
And you can get a chance for that if you ask a really awesome question or if you help answer questions in the chat stream.
We're not eligible, right?
Yeah. Do you want some
Not
swag?
eligible.
Can we get a t-shirt
we
for
have enough
Ryan?
swag, I think.
Yeah, we need a t-shirt for Ryan.
Booty closet.
The booty closet. Yeah, that place is awesome. Every time I see it open, I just kind of sneak in there. Free games for everyone. Cool. Actually, we should pick the winners on the ones who ask the ones that actually stump you guys, right? Because that'll be more fun.
Uh-oh.
That
When
would
we
be a
see
good
you
one.
sweat on
That
air.
shouldn't be hard. That's too easy.
Really? You've been working with the tech for a while now.
They'll ask me something about animation or something I don't know, and they'll be over.
Fair enough.
If it's not covered by NDA and I can't answer it, it doesn't count. It can't be an NDA restriction.
Oh, yes.
Not a fair
Secrets.
stumping.
Try to
Yeah.
figure out how many secrets Josh is in on. That's the challenge with today's Twitch stream. Cool. Quick note on Unreal Tournament. They're actually starting up their own Twitch channel now. And it looks like next Wednesday will be the first actual release of that. We'll have more details coming out soon. But you can go ahead and subscribe to that, Twitch TV/Unreal Tournament. And of course on Twitter we have at UT Epic, which will have all the extra details as we broadcast those out. Okay, so one thing we want to jump out is, part of our process here with the engine is being far more open and transparent about what we're doing, when we're doing it, or when we think we'll be doing it. So we're going to bring up the Trello roadmap for you guys who haven't seen this before. Okay, we'll switch over here. There you go. I'm going to drive it.
Just get that.
Everybody needs to see the menu. So this is our attempt at that high-level roadmap. We break it down by major components and teams in the engine here. So from physics to rendering, and we even got what our planned documentation and tutorials on up here.
And the best one, platform.
Oh, of course. Sorry,
Josh's
area.
Call that one out.
By the way, all platform bugs, mobile especially, straight to Josh Adams. All his fault. His address is. Can we get that on the scene? No, but seriously, actually, now that we've got 4.2 out there, we're taking the opportunity to update our roadmap. So by tomorrow, we'll finish, we're having a bunch of discussions. And part of that, too, is we actually took all the voting data from our roadmap that we have up here today and factored that in and just make sure that, hey, from what you guys are asking for and talking about, let's make sure we're working that into our plan where we can. So over the next week, you should see a bunch of those updates making it here to this board. En masse. Of course, we'll be updating as we go because things are always changing. And also the thing I want to call it too is, I personally went and added a couple that I saw in the forum, specific requests. That's great. Keep that coming, especially that feedback for Epic. That is like one of the first places I jump into because I'm really curious to see, what people are looking for next. So please put your ideas in there on a regular basis. Let's see, what else do we have? Next week, E3 week, of course, and we're putting together a small meetup here. We've got it's at the Golden Gopher. I don't know where that is, but that
Neither do
sounds
I, but-
interesting. Yeah.
It's really
Sounds
close to
very
the convention center.
Okay.
District does a party there just about every year.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if you happen to be in LA and want to come have some drinks and talk about UE4 or just game development in general, definitely would love to have you there. And we're also, June 26th, we're hosting a VR meetup here at the Epic headquarters in North Carolina. So again, if you're,
Is that,
I don't know if we actually have the link up. There we go.
We do.
Yeah, please come on by. We'd love to show you the latest stuff we've been tinkering with and hear what you see what you guys have been up to. VR is one of those areas we continue to be really excited. Lots of cool stuff happening there. And we're still trying to figure out when, the Couch Nights demo we had at GDC, cleaning up that content and being able to make that available to everybody as well. Okay. With that, why don't we go ahead and jump into the community
I feel like we're some
spotlight?
couch knights.
Yes. You're missing some armor, though. Oh, yeah.
Want to show first?
So yeah, this first one, we created this playlist on YouTube that highlights just a ton of community tutorials. I think there were 11 hours of videos.
Wow.
Just much
Okay.
education goodness. Although one is now private, so we should probably fix that one.
Yeah.
Who put these together? Was this Zach and those guys, or do you know?
Just
Just
like
by the community.
Crystal and Dana's team, man.
Okay.
Yeah, this is amazing. And if you are working on tutorials that you'd like to get called out or showcased, please let us know. We always want to be able to draw attention to those. And like I said, it's great learning resources for everybody. Specifically on this, it was Tesla Dev, Metal Game Studios, Team Pro Skill. That's a great name. Even better, Real Dave the Freak, Chad Reddick, Mohammed Maniam, and many others. So thank you very much, guys. This is awesome.
Tesla Dev is prolific.
Yeah. They're all prolific. Look at that.
Wow, this goes on and on. There's almost 100.
96.
96.
Oh my
yes.
goodness, that's amazing. Great
Cool.
job.
Lots more on the way.
All right, the next one we wanted to showcase was Skara. This is Kickstarter of the Week.
Should we play the video or?
Yeah, why not? Or we can just play a part of it, right? I believe this is a fighting game. Dana, do you have a little more context on this one?
Let's see, this one is a team based in Europe.
Oh, little violent.
Yeah.
Fan of the blood.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, so their Kickstarter just launched, and
We're too mature for blood now. We don't make bloody games anymore.
Epic is not known for our gritty violence now.
Now
that's cool
we make
looking.
Zen Garden.
Yep, awesome. Okay, cool. So let's get on to the next one. Yeah,
Wow, look at
lava.
that.
Every game needs lava, seriously.
All right, very cool. So we can just go ahead and skip next for time.
Yeah, so the next one we wanted to call out is really interesting seeing the developments of UE4 being used for architectural, like real-time or high-quality rendering visibility. This is an article from, thanks to Alex Farrell, just talking about kind of the process and using game engines for these sort of visualizations. There's also, I think we have a couple of YouTube videos of other works. Yeah, that is impressive.
Cool. He's changing the style of the chairs and stuff.
Yeah, being able to real-time interior decorate,
Looks nice. And then were these those YouTube videos?
Okay.
Make this one a big deal.
Oh, that's a
Look
lovely
at that.
house. Yeah.
It's also a little bit Zen, isn't it?
It's almost like our Zen Garden house.
Very nice use of the eye adaptation there, seeing it transition into the interior space.
Yeah, almost exactly like my house.
Looks like Wyatt's office.
Yes, he's probably the most modern of us. Yeah.
I call it IKEA.
I'll tell you, the IKEA couches I have, super more comfortable than all the leather couches in this building.
Wow. Nice for nail reading on those chair materials also. It's nice. Go ahead and jump to the next one.
Sure,
You guys have your objections. So this is an architecture, audio, and blueprint demo. Oh, look at that. A
recognize
very
those
stretched
chairs.
chair right there. Looks
That's how you make couches, right?
all right. Cool. And who wouldn't have the Unreal Material example sphere in their living room next to their fireplace?
What is that thing, man?
it's just a mod sculpture.
I think Josh Marlowe made that just to show cool shapes and specular. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's neat, and it shows up a lot.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, we can cut away to that.
Okay.
All right.
think
So we
that's-
have one more with an interior space visualization here. A couple pictures.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I remember this
Oh,
one.
yeah.
We looked at this just in case you hadn't seen it before.
Oops.
Oh.
Sorry. I had to go back.
Here you go.
So this blew a lot of people away on Facebook when I saw it. A lot of people thought it was a photo, including me. I had to click on it, and it's like, oh, I can see what's going on here, but it's
Yeah.
definitely beautiful.
I think this is amazing, especially once you
Even
put
zooming
this
in?
on like a Oculus VR or something like that. Truly immersive experience, right?
Yeah, a lot of nice touches, just like seeing the shade and the socket of the light and stuff inside the lamp. Very nice touches. And cool little frames and glass with the cloth. All right, I'm gonna jump ahead.
Cool. All right, the next one we wanted to look at was not the pop-up, the Cinza Peso VR. Probably totally mispronouncing that. Let me put a little video here. Cinza Peso.
Okay. Sorry. Don't know how to get rid of that. There it goes.
Ah, reminds me a lot of The Fountain, which, by the way, one of the best movies ever made. Just throw that out there, if anybody's ever heard of it.
I have seen that.
Oh, did you say The Fountain?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember.
Had to watch it, a couple times. I think.
I had no idea what it was about, but it was cool.
Yeah. Well, it's a love story, right? With trees, or
There
a
you go.
tree that he eats. This is
I'm tempted to try Nick's trick of focusing your eyes to see the Oculus, but I don't want to look
really?
a cross-eyed goofball on TV.
Yeah. Who needs a headset? You just cross your eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Cool. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. Some nice little blue foliage. Just jump ahead and see what else we got.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Pretty extensive experience, it looks like, if you have time to watch the whole thing, your machine.
All right. So then the last one here is a Twitter link. We've got Super Pac. Oh, we got a video here. Yeah.
Another video. Everything is video.
Oh.
Is there no full screen?
Well, if you go to youtube.com, it looks like.
There we go.
Ooh, it's Superman's palace.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Pac-Man and Superman.
I think that's an old link from the previous.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Is this the wrong one?
Okay, well, we still love this part of this little demo.
Oh, okay.
It's still awesome.
Cool.
The
Okay, I
kryptonite
think that was
ghosts.
everything.
Yep.
There are so many projects we wanted to cover, but we should probably,
Jump ahead then.
jump into
Okay.
whatever
Cool.
I came here for.
Yeah. Do you guys want to start? I don't know, Ryan. You want to start with, or should we just start with the video first for people that didn't see it yet?
Sounds good to me, so we can
Yep.
show the whole part that was cut back during this presentation.
During all that applause.
So this is the Zen demo that we showed at the WWDC event the other day. And about 5 main content artists worked on this. It was Paul Motter and Nick Donaldson did most of the architectural meshing of the level area, and I worked on the cherry tree and the sand dragging stuff. And another artist, Josh Marlowe, worked on a lot of things like the bamboo and some of the props and the couple of the other things like the bird that you'll see later on. And we'll show you guys some more detailed screenshots later to show the work in progress that some of the people contributed.
Any hitchiness you may see is from the capture device. It's not. The demo runs fine. It's very smooth the whole time.
That's very important to Josh.
I have to make sure I point that
Sure.
out.
He
It is
spent
hardware.
Yep.
Josh spent about a week fixing hitches, and that's about it. So it's very important to him. that we-
Well,
Yes.
and if you ever have hitches in your own game, email Josh Adams.
Oh, yes. So I point out again that all of these little interactive things were set up by artists on the project. So Nick Donaldson is the one who did this awesome little fish blueprint system, and those guys are actually running sort of an AI simulation to figure out where to go. And this little sand raking thing was set up entirely with blueprints as well without needing a programmer. And it's actually, we have spline components in the engine now, but this was actually made before those were made public. So this actually does all of it within the materials. So there's actually no spline components or anything. It just uses a capmol-rom material function inside of there, and it creates a segment for each 4 points. And that's actually called the generate a spline material function for those who want to do that on their own. So you can make your own spline system. You don't have to use the one that we've prepackaged for you, although it is pretty powerful. This, of course, is Tim Ellick's awesome butterfly effect. I think something like what you said,
There's 3,500 butterflies here. It gets up to.
Yikes.
We're now starting hashtag 3,500 butterflies.
This was my daughter's favorite part of the demo. In fact, I let her play with it while it was still in beta, and she didn't want to be taken away from the butterflies, so that was a good sign.
Whoa.
Now it pulled out. It's not hitchy on device. It's just a capture. But now, when it's pulling out, all the butterflies are there. It's like 5,000 plus draw calls, which is pretty ridiculous. But I guess we can get into that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Technical details of that.
Explain, what the significance of Metal is from our point of view.
Yeah, so Metal is it's a new rendering API made by Apple for iOS, A7 devices and up. So that's iPhone 5S, iPad Air. It used Metal instead of OpenGL, and it's low level in speed, but not really in features or pain. It's actually a very nice API to use. We're actually quite happy with it. I like to say that if we were to make our own rendering API like this, it would be very similar to what this ended up as. It's Objective-C, not C++ like we might have done, but if you're ever used any iOS development,
Everything's Objective-C.
It's everything Objective-C there for talking to the device. So yeah, it's really awesome API. It's very fast. It's like ridiculously fast. When we were making it, the artists were not running on device. They only had ES2, what they're used to making mobile things, and they just were always looking for ways to optimize the effects or optimize the level. And I was like, you don't need to do that. You can make it look better. You don't need your usual tricks to do. Yeah, turn the dial up and up.
Yeah.
It's like especially the butterflies. Like we normally would do. I was talking to Tim, and he's like, for those kind of mesh emitters like that, I would normally just do 200 or 300 meshes, and that's what I would stop at.
Grouping them together, right? So there's one butterfly mesh that has like 10 or 5 butterflies in it.
Yeah. So when he
instead of individual.
The initial way he did it was put like 5 or 10 butterflies per mesh, but then you'd see the same repeating pattern of these 10 butterflies or whatever throughout the swarm. So no, let's just go for 1 per draw call and see what it looks like. And so we did, and so it is actually 3,500 individual draw calls. And on iOS, usually our draw call budget is maybe 500 to 600, maybe 700 for an entire scene. And so now we're doing 3,500 just for the butterflies. That's not counting the level that's on top of that. And the level wasn't, particularly being made the usual way either. On a lot of mobile games, we have to take all the meshes and just merge them into one giant mesh, like all the like in Epic Citadel. If you remember that now back in the day,
Literally one
all
mesh.
those houses were joined into one giant mesh, which is painful to make.
Yes, you can't change it then, and you're stuck with it.
Yeah, you can't change it. You get a lot of repeating geometry. Like this one house is copied 10 times over inside this one mesh.
And you render more polygons too because you don't have as much frustum culling because bounds get huge.
Yeah,
all
the
sorts of
bounds are
problems.
huge. So yeah, you're always drawing the entire city every frame. And so yeah, so now this lets you just do the normal way you would do for a console game or a PC game.
Yeah. Well, it's cool because it gets us even closer to that dream of you build it once, right? Whether it's for PC, console, or mobile, within reason, right? And you don't have to do as much of the old school hacks and tricks to make it work or squeeze it down, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the device is still a little lower powered than a, high-end PC graphics card and everything for your $5,000. But
there were some things we got away on this that we probably wouldn't have done even on Xbox 360 or One, like the cherry tree. This is a little embarrassing to admit, but is actually something like 200 individual meshes just jammed together, and that wasn't intentional. In fact, we had a single better version of the tree at one point, and due to actually one of our own local bugs that was causing a crash on the device, we had to swap it out for the old work-in-progress version, and we just didn't have time to do the necessary work to test it and get the old version back. But the fact that that wasn't slowing down the game, having a 200 mesh tree, which that's actually something like 400 sections because each branch is 2 sections, that was a little bit amazing because that would have been called out even on Xbox like a Gears game. We wouldn't have been able to have that. So, you guys want to show some of the level shots then, or?
Yeah, sure.
So these are a couple of work-in-progress shots from Paul Motter that he sent me, and these were actually just after a few days working on the level that him and Nick Donaldson kind of roughed out some different architectural looks for the level, and it kind of went through a lot of different phases before it got to where it is today.
How did we land on the Zen theme anyways?
Oh man, there was a meeting and we all pitched ideas, and there were some silly ideas. Everything from Candyland was pitched to kind of almost Wreck-It Ralph style graphics, or Wyatt had this idea to do a crazy kind of graphical math equation tree representation where everything like a tree is made out of crazy shapes that are all nicely lit with weird shapes, and there's kind of almost like a Tron world where there's a path made of crazy mathematical shapes and stuff. So we tried all sorts of different things, and Nick Donaldson had the idea to do a Zen Garden, and he pitched a really simple little image with a sand pit, and we thought that leverages the strengths of the physical rendering and all sorts of things that we can do well on mobile now, and so it just made obvious sense to go with that one.
Cool.
We can't forget Greg's suck idea, which you're a particle of dust and you're a vacuum cleaner trying to get away from the vacuum cleaner. And you control static electricity to stick to carpet fibers.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Where is so under
Bring it
here's a couple of videos. Tim Ellick, the effects artist on this project, he did all of the leaves interactions and stuff like that, and this was one of his early tests where we had kind of more of a maple or a deciduous tree that was controlling all the leaves, and it was pretty impressive as well. A couple of different things.
Sort of guiding around flock sort of turned into butterflies.
Yeah, that kind of became the butterflies. So this went through different iterations. This was his first test of the blowing the leaves on the ground, and he's doing all sorts of crazy stuff here to make this happen. And of course, this was an early version of the the butterflies. Yeah, waterflies. There we go.
Butterfly.
I guess I subconsciously
Kind of
read it.
appropriate.
But that was a cool effect. Let's see. Do we not have Josh? Nope. Guess we don't have Josh Marlowe's stuff up here. Okay, my bad. We'll show the workflow for the cherry tree. It was actually made from one petal in Max, and this is actually the only not in editor screenshot of the tree that you'll see. So that one petal turned into those flowers, and that's in Engine. And then I kind of baked down a series of different cards from those blossoms. I made a series of grouped meshes. And there's just some various iterations on the tree, testing out different looks of subsurface and coloration. And that's the actual tree that ended up in game from a couple different views. And that's the just a little close-up of the sand raking thing.
You don't have a shot of the material behind that one?
Unfortunately, I do not. But anyone who wants to post on the forums about it, I'll be happy to answer questions and explain how the whole spline function works. And this is the bird that Josh Marlowe made. And Nick Donaldson, one of our other designers, he actually did the animation for this bird entirely inside of the editor using vertex shaders, which was pretty impressive. And so one of my Free Friday projects that just happened to land during this demo was I made a flipbook generation tool inside the editor that can either work with things like leaves and flowers and just rotate them about specified axes like you see here, or in this case we specified the bird mesh and we went into the material and replaced time with animation phase, which is specified by the blueprint. And we captured a flipbook of the bird right from the editor, including normal map, mask, and diffuse and all that stuff. So I actually have a quick video of that could be brought up.
Yeah.
I'll just jump through it. So here it's kind of changing the amount of rotations on a leaf mesh, and this was actually used in the leaf falling thing. Jump back a little bit. So there's a little preview I'm trying to find here. There it is. You can preview the motion on one little mesh when you simulate, which is nice. Then you jump back and
Cool.
so these are the textures that the editor exports right out of the editor, and you just bring them right back in, and you've got 3 little flipbooks. Kind of like these little examples. These guys are all flipbooks right here, generated inside the editor. And those should be going out into 4.3. We'll have some more notes on that stuff, hopefully soon for you guys. All right.
So that kind of brings up vertex count. So the metal is awesome on the CPU. The GPU is still the same GPU.
Right.
And so we still have some concerns, like we were running into vertex count. So we don't have, when you have 3,500 meshes of something, if they have a lot of vertices, we're going to have some slowdown in the GPU there. So then the CPU can sort of can give too much to the GPU for it to be able to handle. Like we were running the demo that we have runs with 4 times MSAA, and that actually oddly has a interaction with the vertex count because of the way the hardware works. So with 4 times MSAA and thousands of objects, vertex count ended up being very important. So that's something that we're finding is not so much pixel, but vertex bound. It's a pretty interesting change from what we're used to.
Yeah. That is like the eternal struggle of game development, especially on consoles and smaller devices, right? Of like CPU, one's usually throttling the other, or you don't have enough memory to feed it. And I remember back when early days of UE3, when we introduced Gemini, the first splitting of the game thread and the render thread. That was the first opportunity where we could, make sure the render thread is always fed, and while that's doing something over here on, the CPU cores be working on the next game update. Yeah, and then PS3 blowing that out, and it's even more complicated because every device seems to have more and more cores, and more work on the developer to actually take advantage of all of that. And that's one thing, you'll see that right now part of our parallel rendering effort is to do even more of that work so we can take things like even animation updates and different portions of the render itself and spread that across more cores so we minimize the amount of effort, right?
Yeah, we're one of our big pushes coming up soon is the multi-threading the renderer, making the currently one thread of the renderer into as many threads as you have, each doing a different part of the scene. And actually Metal is designed from the get-go to support this. So it's going to be way easier.
So we'll have that
in Metal than
performance in OpenGL and D3D as well? Is that the idea? Or something
yeah, I
like
mean,
that?
we have ways to make it work with all of them, but with Metal, it just works out of the box without a bunch of like workarounds and queued up command lists and everything that we're going to have to do with OpenGL.
Yeah.
So
is my next high-end PC going to be a iPad or something?
Nice.
yeah,
Cool. All right.
What do we have next?
Well, what more of any more stuff you wanted to show off here?
We've got a couple more videos from Tim's stuff that we could probably do, but
Okay.
there's not a lot terribly different. There's a couple different iterations on some of the leaves and ways of interacting with them that we tried out at various points before settling on the leaves and the blossoms and stuff.
Yeah. Well, one thing I should mention with all this effects work, we actually are working on our new cascade plans.
yeah.
We're going to call it Niagara or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know much about that, so I'm curious.
Well, yeah, we recently hired a new rendering engineer to help us with that. So
Excellent.
that's finally given us a capacity to get that off our backlog and onto
Yeah.
something we're actively working with, right?
Cascades needed some love for a while, which is
Yeah,
good. So
Yeah. Yeah, and with our other tools too, like even the animation tools and that, like there's a lot of work we want to do there. Just even doing a consistency pass on the usability and all that kind of fun stuff.
is
Plus-
sequencer allowed to be mentioned yet, or
Oh yeah, sequencer. You know, that's the pet project we definitely want to get to when we can. I think.
full instrument? Matt?
Yeah, a lot of the guys that would be working on sequencer are knee deep into UMG right now.
Okay.
And there's discussion. There's a certain amount of features that we will want from sequencer to tie into UMG, especially when you get to animation and stuff like that. But I would say that's still early days, and we're figuring that out. But yeah, it's definitely on our radar. We don't know specifically when we'll get to that one though. Yeah, cool. So what else about the WWDC experience you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, the experience itself was pretty awesome, but bucket list item for sure being on that stage.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to mention is that people have been asking about availability of metal in UE4,
Right.
and it's not really up to us. It's we're trying to figure out with Apple when we can check this source code into main branch. It's going to be just part of UE4 as soon as we physically are able, or legally able, physically we can do anything, legally able to
more
get
of
into
a
main branch.
Digital problem anyways.
Yeah, and we just want to make sure that we're crossing all our T's.
Yeah.
We don't want to get the ire of Apple upon us. So
Yeah, no, they have deliberate releases and roadmaps for good reason, I'm
Yeah.
sure. So we want to
Yep.
be congruent to that. Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll just be part of UE4 whenever it's there. When iOS is released, we will put the Zen Garden out on the App Store as a free download.
Plus
It's not
we'll
so much a
bring-
game as an entertainment experience for relaxation.
But
or
we'll
whatever.
get the content out there for folks as well who want to use it as a reference and
Yeah.
or as a building block, right?
I'm not sure the timing of that's going to be probably after we release it or something. But
Yeah, it's all dependent on that Apple schedule at this
yeah.
point.
Another thing with Metal and iOS is that since Metal is only on A7 devices and up and iOS8, the engine is still going to work with ES2. So you can make one set of content. It'll have the ES2 shaders and the Metal shaders cooked in the content. So you can release one app that can run either the ES2 or Metal. And we just look at boot up what device you're running on, what OS you're running on.
Do we?
If Metal's there, we'll use that and just
Yeah.
go faster.
Do we? I assume we don't have this yet, but maybe we should expose some like controls so that with blueprints or whatever, you could detect like, hey, can I do 100 butterflies or 1,000 butterflies, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
setting
Some
up-
automatic adaption stuff
Yeah,
like we used to
exactly.
have in UT and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of the scalability settings already. This seems like another extension on top of that, right?
Yeah, we have basic
Yeah.
options for like high, low, medium, but that's about it. It would be nice to have a little bit more
A little
intelligent
more
in the system.
granular. Ultra high. No.
Yeah. Ultra high. Yeah.
There's the platform
Make it
switch
melt.
or whatever. You can figure out what platform you're on in the
Oh yeah, that'll work.
blueprints.
Cool.
But the material editor knows, ES2 versus full, mobile versus desktop, basically.
Yeah.
Which is also crazy to
but-
point out how much faster ES2 is on a high-end PC versus the render. I think I can render the Zen demo at both full-screen monitors, something like 2,000 vertical resolution at like 180 frames a second. It's ridiculous. But of course, you would want to use more of the features if you were actually making a high-end PC game. But
Yeah.
that was just fun to see how far I could turn up the resolution with no performance hit on a high-end system.
Yeah.
It turns
Well,
off a lot of stuff that the high-end system still has as well.
Well, there's one thing. Part of 4.2 is we support Windows XP with the OpenGL stack as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
OpenGL will still be there for a long time, but
Yep.
Metal will be just another option
Yeah.
that you can and should use if possible.
Yeah, you see this again and again, right? Like, on Xbox 360, we have DirectX 9C, right? Which is sort of, I think, some of the similar spirit of cutting out some of the middleman, so we as developers get more access to that hardware, right? So, and hopefully this is a trend we continue to see, because from our point of view, it's awesome, right? We
Yep.
get to do more with existing hardware, and then, help future-proof, right? Cool.
When they know the hardware that they're writing and developing for, they can make it a lot more optimized, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, definitely.
Squeak out the last little bit.
It's always nice to develop for one platform because you can really optimize for it, but sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah. Cool. Is there any other stuff you want to touch on metal? Good.
Will we be releasing like a blog post, Dana, with like more screenshots or more assets, or are we going to wait for the public release of the Zen demo? Or is that
I
not
imagine
known?
we'll show some more stuff.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah,
I should
sure.
mention I'm sorry to Josh Marlowe. It looks like we had a folder snap and we forgot to grab his screenshots, but we had a few more. But we'll get those
That's
out
right,
to people, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we should totally talk more about the development process on the blog and show some more stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions here. Making the trees for Zen Garden. What did we use there? Was that all done in-house? Did we use any third parties?
So for a lot of the background trees, that was actually speed trees. And
Those were, okay.
Paul Motter actually knocked out. He took some rocks that I forgot to mention. There's another guy, Rick Kohler. He's actually wasn't on this project directly, but he did some rocks for another project, and those turned out to be the floating rocks that we used. And we Paul knocked out a few speed trees, maybe half a dozen, and we used the foliage tool, painted them all over those floating rocks, gave them a cool material with some moss, and then composed kind of cards based off of those that had lighting and stuff based on them. And so it was basically Paul, those Rick's rocks, some shader tweaks by me, and then Rick's rocks is what we called it. And then Nick and Paul did a lot of the composition for that background to kind of give it that Pandora vibe and stuff. So that's pretty much it.
Cool. And what about the water reflection for those?
So that's actually a slightly different material function. We're normally you don't have the parallax of the cube map on mobile, but we kind of set that up manually on the shader so that it's using a function called distance limited reflections, and that's just a way to force it to use the more expensive path for that cube map, because that's one of the optimizations the engine does is it disables cube map parallax by default, just because it's a pretty expensive correction to make on every shader in the whole scene. But you can pick out one or two, basically like a hero shader, like we would call it, and say it's worth paying the cost here. So what that does is it's actually keeping the reflection sort of so that as you move, it stays where it was and it doesn't move with you and disconnect from the scene. And then Nick Donaldson did just the visuals for the shader, like putting in a little bit of wavy motion. It's actually a really cheap, simple shader aside from that reflection function. But yeah, it's cool to take a look at. And he does some custom stuff for the touch to create like a little ripple that follows their finger. It's actually, I think, something like 3 spheres that change the normal map direction. It's interesting to take a look at it.
It's a really cool effect there when you
Yeah.
touch the water.
Yeah, all in
It
loop
bends
again.
reflections.
Yep.
Yeah, demo's awesome.
Oh, one thing I was going to say is that that demo is running at 1080, 1440 by 1080, with 4 times MSA, which is something we didn't plan for. We thought we'd be running at 768, but when we were all said and done,
Crank it up.
we cranked it up, and the MSA was great. Really helped out on some of the edges, like the chairs and the building tops.
Yeah, we kind of had to just trust the final result there because a lot of us couldn't actually see the MSA on a final device while it was in development. So we were just kind of, I hope it looks good, and it did. So
We had limited access to that device.
Yeah, it's always the fun part when you're working on the bleeding edge of things, right? Is usually if you get access to something, there's only one of them, right?
Yeah.
And when you need it, it usually breaks, and all kinds of fun things.
Yeah. But there's one change with the on the GPU. It's a shader. It's a very different shader compiler than ES2. So the same shader could actually run. We saw a little bit of speed up from just a newer, modern shader compiler. So that's pretty cool. The GPU can be a little faster with metal than with ES2 because of that.
Yeah, at least you had a good visibility. It's
Well,
not
that was-
like when we got our first, what was it, the PS3 dev kit, right? When we had to like lock down an entire floor. It
wasn't
felt
that thing like this big?
Yeah, it
too?
was like HAL 9000, right?
Remember they had it on like
It
a
was-
pallet or something.
A little big.
Yeah, fun times.
So
a little big. That doesn't make any sense.
A little bit.
does
So
the
clever.
engine handle metal sort of automatically? Is there anything special that developers have to do to take
Nope.
advantage of it?
Well, once we check it in the main branch, and in 4, 5, whatever it is, whenever it comes out, it'll just be there. There's nothing they need to do other than if they want to make their content more high end or more stuff or just more, then knowing that they have the ability to run on metal will be able to run faster on the newer devices. So you can think about it when you're making content, but you don't need to worry about it and the code side. It'll just be automatic.
And people have the ability to go into ES2 simulation mode currently, don't they? So they could sort of see what their content looks like and sort of maybe prepare in advance if they wanted
So
to.
the mobile previewer in the editor will run Direct 3D or OpenGL on desktop. I'm not actually sure which it does. I think D3D, but feature level ES2, which means it runs the ES2 shaders.
Right.
The same shaders. It's going to look pretty much identical not pixel accurate, but very close as we can get to what it looks like on device. And ES2 and Metal, we don't expect to really look much different, other than we have MSA right now in Metal and not in ES2. But the end result of the shader output should be the same from ES2 and Metal. So you can preview on any device that's running ES2, it'll be slower, or you can preview on the PC with the mobile previewer.
Very cool. And say somebody's making a blueprints-driven game. Do they benefit from Metal?
I mean,
I would say.
I mean, there's
Everybody does, right?
yeah, there's demos of Blueprint.
I mean, this
Demo.
blind thing adds a few hundred draw calls as you're dragging your finger, and normally
Well-
people would say you can't do that. That's a bad idea.
I mean, technically, it just helps get better use out of the CPU, right?
Yeah.
We're reducing
Yeah.
the overhead. So if you want to use more of that CPU for your game and less even graphics, I suppose that's on the table.
Yeah, I mean, the blueprints are way up here.
Yeah.
There's like where game coders would be your kind of little lower level. Down here is ES2 or Metal, side by
And
side.
it
So
just shrinks it.
yeah, in terms of CPU time, it goes from this to this,
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, so it's like way lower level than most people ever need to know or care about. So we do all the hard
But
work.
the nice thing is,
The benefit of using it.
no, but,
me,
but
Josh.
to say like an iOS game developed today will automatically get faster when Metal is available on the CPU side.
If they recompile it.
Sure,
with a new version.
But
But
yeah, so yeah, which means just out of the box, you will have more CPU time that you could do other bad things.
Right. If you're doing some crazy GPU effects or something.
Right. If you're throttled on GPU, we're no
Right.
help to you. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, the new shader compiler might make it a little better, but it's not going to be a silver bullet.
It's not going to fix the failure rate issues.
Your CPU
Well-
could be going at like 120 frames per second, and your GPU could be going at 30 or something, and Metal's not going to make a difference.
Have we
But-
done a good blog post on that aspect of figuring out? Because for a lot of people, I assume this is kind of arcane, right? Like knowing how your GPU throttled or CPU and the split and profiling there.
Well, maybe we may have fixed it up a little bit in the Metal branch, but if you do stat unit on the device, you'll see there are three numbers that you see. One is frame time, which is the overall time for the whole frame. One is game, and one is rent or draw. Game is the game thread, draw is the render thread, and then the total
be-
frame time is everything. On some platforms, there'll be a GPU time if we can
yeah.
time it, but for various reasons, we can't get that number accurately on mobile. So if you look at the total frame time, that is everything. And if the
Subtract
frame time
game.
is bigger than either of the other two numbers, that means you're GPU bound. And speeding up either the game thread or the draw thread is not going to get your frame rate
Yeah.
better.
But there's nothing
usually
nothing like picks to debug that currently, like on a granular level.
Well, Xcode has a frame debugger, which now works for Metal and for ES2, and you can take a snapshot and it'll capture a frame, and it'll actually show you where time is going, and you can even see the shaders, and like you get a little heat map of which lines of the shader.
So we weren't allowed to see
essentially.
that during this, where we did us besides you.
Right.
Because that would have been nice, but to see that.
Yeah, and we were pretty early, so not
Yeah.
everything was working 100% when we first got access. But I will say we were very happy and proud of the fact that we were able to get this early access, that Apple trusted us with it, and wanted us to be some of the ones that showed off the awesomeness of Metal.
Yeah. No, it was a great opportunity.
A lot of fun.
And I don't know if you covered it already, but did you mention what frame rate we're able to achieve with
Yeah, so on
Zen Garden?
device, we're locked at 30 the whole time. We're actually, the CPU, because Metal's so fast, is actually going faster than that. But for smoothness, large parts of it could be going at 60, but if you go between like 30, 60, it'll look stuttery and jittery, especially on a projector where they're doing
Yeah,
this,
the-
trying to
the
capture
frame
the
rate.
frames and figure out what the frame rate is. So we end up just locking at 30 no matter what. So, and then it's perfectly smooth the whole time.
Buttery.
Buttery smooth.
There you go.
30 frames per second, 1440 by 1080, 4 times MSA
On a little thing like
on an
that.
iPad Air.
Yeah.
And I know you've talked about this a little bit. We have some people who have, joined the stream a little bit late. Can you sort of summarize what features have become available to us or viable on mobile that weren't really possible before, thanks to the performance boost? Or is it just a performance boost?
Well, it is. Well, Metal does have a few features like compute shaders that ES2 doesn't have. It supports parallel rendering right out of the box, but we haven't written the high-end parallel renderer to take advantage of Metal support for it, but that's coming soon.
Yep.
But just the performance lets you do things like it just lets you author content in a better way by having that performance.
Well, yeah, technically features they're feasible before, but performance just made it prohibitive right now. Now that's actually possible. Like MSAA, right?
And in some ways, it does buy you more GPU, like in a non-intuitive way, like how if you don't merge 100 meshes, you're now going to be culling out the ones that are outside of the view, so you have less polygons on screen. So by some nature, there's a little bit more optimization to the way of having more draw calls and less merges, and it doesn't seem to affect the metal of the device.
It'll help the vertex count, which is one of those things we're finding is surprisingly an issue, such as MSA. So
yeah, that was a big problem on Soul. So
yeah.
Yeah, has anybody fired up Soul on Metal yet? How's that
I
looking?
have not. I'm sure it would run zippy fast.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I think Soul is pretty GP bound actually.
Yeah.
Because we merged so many meshes that ended up being a lot fewer draw calls than it looks like it is.
Yeah,
because we did all those tricks to get it to run on ES2.
So let's see. So let's unmerge those.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you unmerge those, then see.
Not it.
Cool, cool.
You have more questions?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still kind of sorting through a few here. Oh, this is not metal related, but we did get a question from CyberDev about the status of LPV and kind of where we are with that. Ray, are you able to speak to that at all?
I'm not sure of the recent. We should grab Nick for the final update. I don't know, Josh, do you have anything more recent?
I don't
There's
actually.
a version in the internet. I mean, is there a specific part that he was asking about, or?
He's just looking to, achieve higher quality, something that comes a little bit closer to what they're doing, what Lionhead's doing with Fable and his own
Right.
work, of course.
Yeah.
So,
wish I knew.
yeah. I mean, I know that work continues on it every single month, or, building.
Yeah, and of course, as if Lionhead continues to improve, we're happy to collaborate with them to get those improvements into our version as well, right? I would say primarily between focusing or helping out with the Zen demo, the rendering team is mostly working on the multi-threading, the rendering stuff right now, because that unlocks kind of the next wave of big development features we can go do. Yeah.
Cool. While we have everyone here, I know that people always ask about some of the most in-demand features. So UMG, Paper 2D, maybe we should just sort of touch on that really quickly.
Yep. So sure. Yeah, UMG is it's Unreal Motion Graphics. That's the name of our content editor for UI. Built on top of Slate. That allow you basically what you see is what you get style editing and hopefully like previews and all that kind of stuff. The essentials for building game UIs, whether it's menus or HUDs or all kinds of creative things. So that one's work in progress. We're trucking along on that. Not quite sure the milestones and when we'll be ready for like a full preview, but definitely sometime hopefully soon. So Paper 2D, that's one thing we've heard long before we ever ship UE4 is like people love 2D, and it's not hard to look at a bunch of games out there and see that 2D is still hugely popular.
We got Tappy Chicken. What more do you want?
Yeah, and
There's a lot of endless render questions.
Yes,
out there.
exactly. So yeah, Tappy Chicken is proof that you can do 2D and 3D, but there's a lot more to it. And I think Paper 2D, he's actually got a Trello board out there that breaks down his full plan there. It's a lot of emphasis on the proper workflow and tool support you need to really build a 2D game efficiently. Plus, out of that too, it allows to get more optimizations and just better support around the whole feature. The other one that we're still working on, we've got tons of tutorials and that. It's just the general notion of learning C++. I think there's a lot of new developers out there who haven't, maybe this is their first time even trying programming. So we want to get more resources out there and more hands-on tutorials. And give us some feedback on the interactive tutorials as well, if you guys are finding them useful or not. Because not particularly useful to C++, because I don't know how you do interactive. Well, actually, there's some cool websites out there. Like codeacademy.org, have you or code.com?
Like programmer or something.
Programmer. I know Khan Academy.
Like online compiling.
Yeah.
See the result.
Khan Academy. I don't know if they're doing C++, but definitely some other languages like Python and Lua and stuff like that, or Ruby. The cool thing about programming is once you learn, there's some core concepts to all languages, right? C++ definitely has a lot more concepts than most languages. Well, I don't know if I'm describing this well. So it's not like you can go learn Python and then jump into C++ like you'll be fine. But it'll definitely give you a leg up. But moving forward, just finding ways to get people into that sooner. And also highlighting, just because you create a blueprint project doesn't mean you're now confined to blueprints, right? Like you can still write C++. And a lot of our common workflow in building things is we'll have someone like Ryan who scares the hell out of us with the blueprints that he comes up with, have him explain what he's trying to build there, and then condense that into 1 or 2 nodes, and that way greatly simplify the blueprints and just improve iteration time.
Yeah.
And then we've created yet another tool for the next time we try to build something, right? So I think we want to get some blog posts or whatever kind of explaining that workflow and just showing how easy that really is.
There's an example of that from actually just yesterday, if you want me to bring it up. I was doing something in a blueprint that's a little expensive, which is breaking a string into an array of individual characters.
Yeah.
And you had to do a for loop and stuff like that. And Nick Whiting, I was talking to him a little bit. He's like, oh, I could make that a native function in about 5 minutes. And he sends me an email later that day, oh, by the way, this is in now. And so you can do that, get a string as a array of characters as a pure node, so there's no execution pins. And supposedly it's much faster, and we can abuse the hell out of it without as much worry. I wouldn't say no worry.
Yeah, come on.
As much worry.
Abuse. Yeah, no abuse. I think what else? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, another thing that Apple announced was their new Swift programming language, which if anyone happens to use that in UE4 in any way, let me know. It's kind of interesting on forums or whatever. I'd be curious to see what people do with it. But one thing it does have is this playground concept where you can just open up a little interactive screen, start typing code, and you see the results on the side. So it's C-ish. There's a lot of the things that are very similar to C++ and C, but it's interactive and it feels like a scripting language, but it compiles onto C++, or compiles on like C++, and so it's as fast as C++ is, but you can interactively write in it and see results in their little playground thing inside Xcode. So.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. And then I know some people notice that we have our experimental Lua support in the engine with 4.2. That's something we're always interested to see where the community wants to go with that. I think, we'll see. It's sort of an experiment. Internally, we're still very much in the, at the end of the day, C++ is the best choice for actually shipping games, from our opinion, our experience. And then Blueprints is the great workflow win for us. I think other stuff that comes to mind with community requests is just really the samples and templates, right? Well, and all the other vehicles. I was joking earlier today is like, where's the planes? Where's the tanks? We'll never be able to keep up with all the requests. We were talking about like RPG. RPG is such a broad thing. Like, Ryan, what's your favorite RPG?
Oh man, Knights of the Old Republic one.
That's not an RPG. No,
yeah, it is.
Just kidding. Josh, what's your favorite?
Of all time?
I don't know.
I'll go Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. So there you go. 2 wildly different experiences, right?
Not an MMO person.
Yeah.
Me neither, but not American RPG either.
I just
Japanese RPG is where it's at.
I got you.
What about the Korean Japanese RPGs? No.
Those are probably good too.
So yeah, we look at those sort of things of like what's actually useful for us to build if we were to go build a sample or a template, because there's like action RPGs, Western style, turn-based, all kinds of fun things there. One thing we were actually talking about with James Golding. His idea was to see if we can kind of build some of these samples more in real time and more in the open, so you guys can not only have the end result of like a great reference and the template where you can just kind of click button and get started, right? But see how we actually go about putting these things together. We should actually like Twitch stream you sometime doing some blueprint hacking so people can see the madness in real time. Run away in fear. No.
Isn't Alan Noon doing something like that with a fighter game on the community? Or
he's doing a fighting game template.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't checked it out very much yet, but I want to see all that they're doing there. It sounds cool.
Lots of clicking and dragging.
Yeah.
I think at one point who was it? Somebody was like actually looking at the number of clicks per minute in the tools. This is back in UE3 days and seeing like who was the most prolific, what tools, and it was always the Blueprint or the Kismet hackers back in the day, right?
Yeah, I have bad luck whenever they try to video me working. I think on Gears 3 there was a video camera randomly walking through, walks into my office, my computer starts auto-saving, and it auto-saves for about 5 minutes, and that guy just walks away, walks off. It's like, oh, thanks, autosave.
Yeah, sure. You've got a button to bring that up.
Now you can cancel autosave.
Yeah, so now you can cancel, but then you couldn't cancel it, so.
Yeah. Cool. What other questions we got?
Cool. So this was a blueprint-related one. I wonder maybe if Ryan can answer it. Yep. So it's kind of specific. Can you publish to multiple platforms with the same project and tag certain things for each target, or do you need separate projects?
You actually mentioned more
Josh.
Or actually, that's Josh.
Yeah, that
platforms.
Right now, I think it's at the string, but there is there's a node in Blueprints that I just added recently, so it should be in 4.2, that you just get the platform name, and then you can just switch on the platform and do different things. which we use for Tappy Chicken. That's how on HTML5, for instance, there's no leaderboard button
Right.
or the rating button, the stars to give it a rating, because we don't have leaderboards for HTML5.
Right.
So if you look at Tappy Chicken, there'll be an example in there of that, of how Shane used it.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, the second part of the question had touched on blueprints, but I think you pretty much answered it there.
Cool.
Yep, awesome. Thanks.
T-shirt to that person.
Yep. That was Mike Purvis. Thank you, Mike. Question.
He didn't stump me, though.
Yeah. Okay. Question about HTML5 and packaging. When we expect for that to sort of come online. I mean, I know that with Tappy,
What do you mean?
like
that
you
all
already
works.
you can already do that with
Yeah.
4.2, right? Or sort of.
Let me think of it as if the tools are there, you might need the GitHub. I think 4.2 has HTML5.
There's definitely some part of it. I don't know if all the things we did for Tappy
We
Chicken.
may not have it in there by default.
Yeah.
And really that's sort of waiting for it just to work. One problem with HTML5 is that we use some extensions from WebGL that not all browsers have. Like the reflections use this thing called Texture Cube LED, where we choose what map level to use. And the lower down it gets, the rougher the material is. So if the platform doesn't support that, everything looks really shiny or black, depending on what happens. So we're sort of waiting. Mozilla is the kind of the forerunner of all these things we're working with. So Firefox has support for it, and Tappy Chicken didn't use it. That's why it works fine. Tappy Chicken, but if you're doing a real game with any sort of specular, it's going to look extra shiny.
Tappy Chicken is a real game.
It needs to be HD, high
Full
res.
3D, whatever.
Yeah.
So the experience in HTML5 is not 100% on all browsers, so we're sort of being a little slow and trying to make it the best experience possible before we just turn it on by default. If you have the GitHub, then you just compile all the tools and it'll be there as a thing you can target.
Yeah, everything is available in GitHub, and then definitely in 4.3, the next binary release that we do for the engine, we'll probably have another pass on HTML2.
Yeah, I mean, it basically works. It's just there's some of that polish issues there. That last couple things basically working before we feel like it's ready for prime time.
Cool.
I hope that answers the question.
Okay, cool. Sorry, it's taking just a second.
All right.
Is there anything else you guys could think of that you wanted to bring up while we're here?
I don't know. Any last?
I'm curious to check out that intro to C++ stuff, because I'm kind of the person who I've never really done any C coding, but I've gotten to the point where I can dissect algorithms that I find online and sort of recreate them in blueprints without too much trouble. But sometimes there's things I want to do that I just can't do, because it's like I need to change this one thing in code. It's just one parameter, but I need to learn how to set that all up, and maybe I'll be a good test case.
I think it's interesting. A lot of artists or non-technical or non-programmers who get really into Kismet or Blueprint style visual scripting, I can definitely see is like these guys have the ability to be a programmer, right? You probably understand a lot of programming concepts even without realizing it. And I don't know, it'd be interesting. I think the thing I find sometimes challenging is going back and forth between the two. And sometimes just writing code in 3 lines of text is a lot easier, and vice versa, right?
I've come into that a lot lately too. Like some things get big in blueprints, some things are really easy and small. But
and I think that's the superpower is when you can, as like sort of that gameplay programmer hacker person, and when you can cross between it and just always be picking the most efficient path there.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because in C++ you need semicolons. I'm going to forget those.
Yes. Why?
Swift doesn't have semicolons.
Yeah, no language should. Come on.
awesome.
That's just lazy parsers.
Yeah. I like that they saved their big stuff for the end there at that meeting.
Oh, yeah.
One thing, I guess, I know Android support for different devices is always a concern. We just got a whole bunch of Asian devices on hand now, so we can test with those. And those are a lot of the issues seem to be on the devices we've never seen before had access to. So hopefully that sort of category of devices will help us get better support.
Are we going to have like a room of devices, just every device in existence in one
There's
room?
thousands. There's 2,000 or 3,000 different devices.
Yeah, it is definitely a challenge. Yeah, we can't have all the devices, but
obviously.
fortunately, a lot of the variations, it's more of us targeting the GPU. But it's painful, right? Because it's not even just the GPUs. It's what driver version that manufacturer
yep,
supports,
yeah.
and then the carriers have another potential latency. Like
Yeah.
like with my phone, I'm using HEC, so it's like not only if if the GPU dude gives them a new driver, HEC adopts that driver, and then if AT&T decides, yeah, we'll go ahead and push that out, right? And you're just like,
Or the Apple guys pointing out that there's a lot of old Android OS systems out there installed and stuff like that too. I'm sure that
Yeah.
makes it tricky.
Which, I mean, it's a
knows?
trade-off, right? Like, clearly Google took that path for a reason, right? Different advantages. So.
This is a landscape question, but it's
Uh-oh.
do we have access to landscape C++ API at runtime?
Yes.
Lands.
I don't know, what are they trying to do with it?
I'm wondering if procedural planting is possible without digging through the UE4 sources.
It depends on how you want to approach it. I mean, you could approach it as purely a content problem and do traces in the world and spawn things.
Yeah,
It might not be
totally.
super efficient, but it might be better to actually somehow interface with the foliage system and have that stuff pre-painted and maybe use material parameters to sort of blend between different phases or something. But there's so many different ways of approaching that problem that it's kind of hard to pinpoint what they're trying to do and what they want.
Yeah, are they just trying to paint foliage in real time? Is that the idea? Or?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Tato, if you want to expand on that a little bit, I'll be happy to read it out.
Yeah, I mean, on some level, if it's just, like clearly just doing traces and spawning actors, you could
We
do
do
that
that all
on
the
any
time,
surface,
yeah.
right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm curious what he's trying to do there.
Cool.
You need
All
to do a
right.
construction script, right, that won't run at runtime. So all the flow stuff can be done in the editor.
Yeah.
The one thing that maybe you can't do yet that we want to be able to do is to do things like trace to the world and actually get the color of that pixel or the color of that vertex color.
If you're trying to match lighting, for example, that could be a bit challenging. If you're using pre-baked lighting.
Oh, I was more thinking of like do a trace to the train and make sure that this is actually the grass material or something like that. And it might need to read the layers or the vertex colors.
You could use physical materials for that, see?
Okay, there you go. There's always different ways of thinking about it.
Haha.
Very cool.
I answered better than Ryan, for the record.
If there's a way,
I don't even
Give you a
write
t-shirt.
code anymore. Yes, where's
Ray
my
gets a
t-shirt?
shirt.
Ray gets a T-shirt.
Yes, okay. Yay. No
Folks
more
are,
plaid, though.
folks are wondering, sort of just like what we're working on for 4.3. What are some of the themes? I mean, I've been answering in the chat that, we're working on having speed tree up here and all that good stuff.
Oh, man.
I don't know if there's anything else that
we're
we...
working on all the things. And honestly, at any point, the Trello roadmap is probably the best on the high-level roadmap. Josh is going to be, like I said, Android compatibility. We'll be fixing issues on that, working on workflow stuff. Rendering side, tons of the multi-threaded rendering stuff. UMG's in flight, Paper 2D's in flight. The physics guys have some cool stuff in flight. We're talking like destructibles and blowing things up and pirate ships, all kinds of cool stuff coming.
Spline
Awesome.
mesh components in the engine next, right?
Yeah, I think James sent a mail about that this morning, right?
That's pretty
Yeah, it's in
exciting.
now.
Yeah.
So you won't need to do your own crazy material functions to use that if you don't want to.
Yeah. Cool.
Any status on possible Twitch integration?
Yeah, we've been digging into that and actually talking to folks at Twitch. So we don't have any concrete plans yet, other than strong intent. We want to make sure
Yeah.
that's in there. And I know the zombie guys, they had their great Twitch integration for
Yes.
Daylight. So we've been talking to them and learning from their experience as well. So yeah, hopefully more to talk about that soon. I'm curious on that one, what they're looking to accomplish with that, actually.
Cool. I don't have any details on exactly what they want to do, but Vital Coder, if you want to throw that in there, I'll look for it.
Cool.
Let's see what else. Here's another terrain question. Are deformable height maps possible in 4.2? I remember in UDK this was impossible or super expensive.
You mean dynamically altering the terrain or just using a displacement map for like detailed modulation?
I'm not sure.
I would say
but-
that the second one is possible.
I think on IRC, I saw that question popping around. I think it was the first one.
First one, I don't know of
hard
any way
one.
to do that
The
just
hard
yet.
one.
Yeah. I don't think we currently can do dynamic.
Magic carpet?
I could be giving a wrong answer. We really need to get
Whoa.
Jack Porter or
How old
someone
are you?
to give a correct answer.
When was Margin? That was like mid-90s, something like that?
That's why there was that. Remember, Unreal 1 was going to be a magic carpet.
Yeah, it was
And
all...
the little,
yeah, you're right.
that
The
dragon
blocks
head
of the
was
dragon.
the actor icon was a
man.
dragon head.
Forgot about that. Do you remember Tim's original thing with the portals, where he wanted all the UT server or the Unreal servers, where you could just walk through the portals and teleport?
from server to server.
I think from the very early days, he was trying to create the metaverse, right?
Oh, wow.
Like us all.
Folks are asking what's around like the min version of Android that we support.
How do you define that?
API level 9 is
Okay.
actually what we have in the config files, but I don't think anyone actually has a phone with version 9. But yeah, we go support really far back. I think like 14-ish is really where we start. You get like proper input and lots of things start actually taking shape. I think it's 14.
Actually, on that note, I know Aaron Jones, we were having a mail thread about sharing more of our approach to compatibility testing. We've got different ways we look at this content on these set of devices, and at least getting a bit more transparent of where we're at on that. That might be a more useful just guideline of what you're trying to build on what device it's guaranteed to work. But
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing we're starting up now, we're really trying to push for better automation for testing. So we're working on some Unreal automation tool scripts to, if you have like a farm of 10 PCs, each one has 20 Android or 6 Android devices, whatever USB ports you have, devices plugged in. We just go to all the PCs and say, go run on all your devices, and it loops over them and runs the game. You can grab a screenshot, grab the logs, then we can save it all to a server and then start comparing screenshots like a month later,
processing, yeah.
figure out, start looking at screenshots, figure out if things are already going awry. But there's also the common problem on Android is it's just black, which is very obvious when we try on that device. So
Yeah.
that one will catch earlier. But moving forward, we're trying to make it so that we don't cause breaks on some random like device 37 without catching it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, catch the regressions quicker, and then continue to just get more supported. I don't know, blessed devices. I don't know.
Yeah,
How-
it's not a overnight fix for all devices, but
Well, and
it's something that's definitely
It's honestly a challenge from our point of view too, because if you're making like that low-end 2D game, it's going to run probably on a lot more devices than say Project Soul, which is, if you don't have a certain GPU or that GPU doesn't have a driver that's sufficient, all that kind of fun stuff. So,
Tabby Chicken will work a lot better than Sol will. That's for sure.
yes.
Okay, I have more metal-related questions. Does the API have any impact on our ability to use layered materials on iOS, for example? Other GPU-intensive processes like for pixel operations or process effects, anything like that?
It's really about the CPU, not the
Yep.
GPU.
Yep.
That's the critical point. As I said, the new shader compiler can have some GPU impact, but it's not mind-blowing like the CPU impact of Metal is. So that's really where the Metal wouldn't let you have more passes on different, because you can render the same mesh, 8 times in different passes, as long as you're not, you still have render targets, you switch out render targets, there's going to be, switching render targets isn't instant, it's the same hardware. So anyway, yeah, it's really about the CPU speed up. And as I like to say, you can have lots and lots of simple things with Metal.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
There's lots and lots of complex things, you will just hit GPU limits.
All right. What about blueprint functions? Is it possible to add multiple exit points as opposed to just one exit or return node?
I believe it's a work planned if it's not already in there. I don't know, Nick
Multiple,
Whiting's
I don't
I
know.
don't know, when would you use that exactly? That you
multiple
couldn't-
returns, man. Come on. Not everything's Boolean. I don't know. Nick Whiting's probably mad that I said we're doing it, because he's like, no, we would probably never do that. So, I don't know. Unless you know
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
did.
Josh.
Well, Kismet had it, right? So I guess that's how people are thinking.
Well, I did a lot of things building Kismet that they undid on purpose.
You're just talking about how links
Well,
can't have more than one link going into the same thing.
yeah,
Okay.
which I thought was
no,
genius.
it's
No.
2 things going out.
It
Like,
does make things easier to debug.
No, but yeah, if you have a function that's going to return yes, no, 10, 12, whatever, it could have any number of outputs potentially. I say we should do it. I don't know if it seems like we should do it.
There's once in a while where I'm like, it would be nice,
See,
but I can
this
always
is
figure
our
out a way.
decision-making process. I say stuff randomly, and then other people get mad at me.
as well they should.
Exactly.
Hey, Josh, do you know what the status of the batching system on mobile is?
The batching system.
Batching for just draw
Yeah.
files or something?
I'm not sure what
Yeah.
that could
Did
mean.
we ever do instance meshing for mobile? I don't remember
I'm
doing
not
that.
sure.
No, we
I don't think so.
instancing wouldn't work. Metal supports instancing. We just didn't. We didn't need it for the Zen demo, so we never actually implemented it currently. But I don't think that's necessarily what they mean by batching. Maybe it
Okay.
is. I don't know.
That's all right.
More
Maybe.
detail would be.
I'm not real
helpful.
sure either.
Or, I mean, for the 2D stuff, there'll be extra batching of that, right? Just to limit texture swaps and all that.
Yeah, like Slate right now is one giant vertex buffer, and then we just batch up those elements together. I mean, that's at a higher level, though. Yeah, I don't know. More detail would help.
Well, I thought this was actually cool since we've talked about it. Does the team have any plans to host live dev streams where they develop a very simple game in real time?
Yes, we have discovered that today. So the first one will be Fighting Game by Alan Noon. And when is that?
I'm not sure. We need to
Oh.
set a date for that.
Awesome.
Not a number you'll definitely be getting a DM for swag. That was a great question.
They're probably a plant. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
They're on
really
our
Alan.
side. Yeah.
It's Alan. Yeah.
Tell them about it. I don't know. Cool.
All right. Can you attach multiple items to the begin event tag when using Blueprint? Do you know that? Do you know?
I mean, you
have
should be
multiple
able to. You
events.
just have a sequence that fires as
Yeah.
much stuff as you want, or you just
Yeah.
do one long
Yeah.
execution chain. We use sequences a lot because it allows you to separate the execution links. So one goes up here, one goes down here, and you don't have this basically rat's nest maze where you have to follow it left and right.
Yeah, yeah, it's a little
controls the
cleaner.
flow, so it's more delineated.
Yeah. So yes.
Cool.
Hell, Ryan could do it live right now. Hi, Ryan, build a game live. Build
All
Fortnite.
right, a character will jump, and that's it. Done. Hello world. No,
Make Slappy Chicken.
that's a game.
Slappy chicken.
Slappy Seal.
Slappy. This is a PG-13 scene. Come on.
All right. I'm gonna take
Mature
two
developers.
more here.
2 more. Good ones.
Is there already some kind of object pooler for mobile to avoid needless creation / destruction?
Of view objects?
Garbage collection, yeah.
No. Inside of Metal, we did some pooling of things to not create metal buffers all the time. But
I'm assuming
I think that's probably the higher level
Yeah, the
of
game
view
thread.
object stuff. That wouldn't be Metal specific. That would be there's nothing.
well, they
Or,
said
I mean, mobile.
mobile.
Sorry, Metal's on the brain. That would not be mobile specific features. I mean that.
I'm gonna say in the. I
May
mean,
help more on mobile, but there's no reason not to do it on all platforms.
yeah, I would say on that thread, it's on an ongoing, much like looking at compile times or any other general optimizations of reducing the overhead of like object creation or actor creation destruction, right? I'm trying to think. In the past, it used to be one of the required things, especially around particles, like lots of pooling and stuff. But
Yeah, the
These
thing with
days.
pooling, there's 2 parts of reusing objects. One is not hitting the allocator,
Yeah.
and one is not calling the object constructor,
Which
which
is
sets all the
usually
variables.
expensive.
The object constructor is the more expensive part, and you need to do it anyway, because if you're going to pool something, when you get a new one, you have to reset it to the initial values.
well, and then the memory
So-
fragmentation that can fall out of that
Well,
too.
right. So then the allocator issue is not as bad now that we're using the binned allocator on almost all platforms. That is pretty resilient to fragmentation and also doesn't go back out to the system to free or allocate memory very often. So the binned allocator kind of helps minimize the effect of creating and destroying a bunch of objects. But the object construction is still an issue, no matter what your allocator
Well-
is, and pooling doesn't
Yeah.
really solve that. So
And you have to be careful with that on a lot of common gameplay hitches where, oh, I just spawned this thing. Oh, by the way, that also spawns that thing, which references that thing, which spawns this thing. And then next thing you know, you've created like 30 objects when you thought you were just creating one, right?
or the like the flat cannon in UT, because it's all its actors,
The hitch
individual.
gun?
Yeah, the hitch gun.
Yeah, the hitch gun. Do you remember, I think Quake 2, they had the minigun too. That used to lag out networking because they were actually spawning individual things for each one of those, and the rate of fire was so high it would just saturate the channels.
I think Gears had the same thing where we'd spawn a bunch of like bots in one frame for a new
Well,
scenario, so we would stagger over time. I think.
Yeah, well, that used to be my soak test. Is I had my level where I'd spawn 100 AI dudes, and just if I can
add bots
well,
100 or 500 and it would
Yeah, well, it was fun because when I'd start that 6 months before we ship, and it would crash within 30 seconds, right? And then I'd get it up to like 2 minutes. I think by the end of it, I'd actually be able to run it overnight and come back, and I'd be at like 1 frame a second or something, but at least it didn't crash.
Yep.
Anyways, we're way off topic. How about another question?
All good. Regarding object pooling, does UE4 provide a pooling system for actors?
Oh,
Not
that I've-
explicitly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's one in there.
Yeah, we had some of that stuff in UE3, but it just, this day and age, it doesn't seem quite as necessary. I mean,
Yeah.
caveat, of course, whatever you're trying to do, maybe there's a special case we're not thinking of. But
Yeah, if you're having some game with 1,000 things that are constantly spawning and dying, that might make sense for your app to do it in a
Yeah.
controlled case where you know what you need to initialize or whatever it is
Yeah.
to make it fast.
Yeah, in those cases, you may not even, won't even go through full destruction, I guess, which would be a modified pooling system or something. But yeah, in those cases, they seem to be so one-off that usually it's not useful to have a generic pooling system. You sort of just, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, can work around the limitations.
Yeah, and in mobile, like in iOS, you only have so much memory. So pooling can let things live for
Right.
a very long time and just take precious memory.
Yeah.
got a similar.
And if you go in the background, you want to have using as little memory as possible so you don't get killed, etc. So.
Yeah, you're a big target.
Got a question in the same vein for you guys. I think I've seen this on the forums before. I don't think we currently support level streaming on mobile. Is that something we plan to
We
schedule at some point, or
do.
do we do we do now?
Yeah.
Because on Sol we definitely didn't. So maybe we did it since then. Or at least we were not
Soul
using it.
uses level streaming.
does
Streaming
now?
levels, yeah.
Yeah, like
I
when
didn't
you
work
walk on
on
the
it.
stairs, I think it streams in levels.
Well, I didn't work on that till the very end. I worked on it more in the beginning phase. Maybe that was added after.
Yeah.
Sorry for the distraction.
I'm pretty sure everything about level streaming works fine.
Yeah,
Can't think
well,
of
that'd be
anything.
platform agnostic. Should
Yeah,
be.
it should be.
Yeah, we had a few questions about Soul. I mean, just, we might want to just sum up sort of what that is. People are asking if we'll release it,
Project
that
Soul?
sort of thing.
Showed at GDC. Our GDC.
Yeah, so Soul started, this Project Soul started as a mobile, like a modern mobile demo of on the high-end rendering features that we were supporting there. It started at the EGK, our Korean office there, Jack Porter and team, all the technical artists there, and then as we were getting towards GDC, we had some collaborations like Ryan, we pulled you on it, and say like Josh Marlowe and a couple other guys, right?
Paul Moderators again also worked on Zen demo and stuff.
Right, yeah.
We worked on it for
Yeah.
a couple months, or maybe a month or less
Month or
than that.
so, yeah.
And then went back and they finished it over in Korea
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely, we're at some point we want to release it out because I think it'll be a great reference for people going after that high end. And the cool thing about that is where possible, except for the mesh merging, which we talked about earlier, it was kind of the example of a real PC game environment, right? Especially when you get to the end and it's that wide open landscape. It was pretty impressive. You create this on PC and it just works on mobile.
Can't
Just
people
works.
find that video if they look for the HTML5 demo showing that we did of it? I remember seeing it online.
We released, we let Mozilla release a really brief clip of it running in HTML5.
okay.
And that was
wasn't the best showcase of
Post
it.
process was broken or something
Yeah,
like that.
it wasn't the best. I mean, it was like just a quick little teaser because
Yeah.
they were going to show it at their GDC booth.
Right.
But it really doesn't do it justice because it looks so good running on mobile device as opposed to just in the browser.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll happen down the road. Okay, last question. This is from Nobby Knobs in the forums, the one
he's
who
the dude with
put
the
together
crazy
all
thing.
all the
Impressive.
tutorials. Thank you so much for that. He wants to know what's the status of Vertex animation import. Do you know?
Import, no.
Or importation is what he says.
I know
Import.
we've talked about it and bigger plans of better support of Vertex animation again in the engine, right? That's so funny, by the way.
Is it for like morph targets? I guess?
Yeah, like the modern mark targets, right?
One of our texture artists sort of did that manually using a UV script in Max and a vertex shader in the engine. Although it's not obviously not a full animation system, but he got basic animations working like you can have a flower grow or something like that with morph targets.
Are
And
you talking about Bill's thing?
no, it's John Lindquist.
Oh,
he
John.
he did a script that it does a couple things. It does morphing and it does actual direct animation if you have another channel for it. But just a neat little thing.
Yeah, that's one we should follow. Matt Kay or Lena would know the
Yeah.
status of that.
We should show some of that off too.
Yeah, was that just a Epic Friday project?
I think that was just one of John's crazy ideas. He thought, I can probably do this, so he just did it. And
Because
he
he
uses it for
could.
something crazy like a whole cloud system, and you're like, how is that related?
Yeah.
He just knows.
Some programmer someday is going to be like, oh my god, I got to fix bugs with this.
Well, that is all the time we have for today, you guys. Thank you so much for coming to the stream. Ray, if you want to just
Sure,
remind
yeah.
everybody what we talked about today.
Yeah, so we spent most of the time talking about Metal, great new things. Zen Garden, as soon as Metal is available from Apple officially, then we'll make Zen Garden, we'll ship it on iOS App Store and make that available to UE4 subscribers. Remember the UT, we've got a separate UT Twitch channel set up, and they'll be kicking that off next Wednesday, and follow at UT Epic on Twitter for more details on that. We'll be in LA next week for E3, or some of us will, and we're having an Indie Dev meetup, so come by, talk if you're around. We'd love to chat with you. Yeah, and then thanks once again, 4.2 being out there. Let us know. We're paying close attention, seeing the issues or things you love. Let us know, and we'll get on it. Cool.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.